There we go.
The first thing I want to do is talk about the different types of doubt that Brett Kunkel delineated, because if you're writing that on that first prompt, and again, you're choosing between the two, you're not writing about whether then, I'm asking you to talk about which type of doubt is, do you deal with the most. So let's talk about each of those a little bit. So tell me about intellectual doubt. Yeah, so did Jesus really rise from the dead? Is the Bible true? So we're questioning our faith at the level of what is true and or what is not. And then what does he say comes with that?
Doubt.
Oh, that's good. No, kind of the result. Yeah.
Wrestling with who God really is.
Yeah, wrestling with God, who God really is, or if God really is, right? If that is true. Okay, talk to me about emotional/psychological doubt.
It's the questioning of God's goodness.
The questioning of God's goodness. And this, I'm not going to talk, I'm going to ask. What kinds of situations do you think could cause that?
Good at that.
Bad happens, right? Something that doesn't make sense. Especially if it's the death, of a child or, something like that. My in-laws lost two of their children. They buried two of their children, one at the age of 28, one at the age of 45. And I was always impressed by their faith. So, and for that matter, my husband lost both of his siblings. Because it's really easy, isn't it, to say, how could you do this? Any number of a plethora of things can cause us to have that emotional and psychological doubt. Now, what about moral doubt? Talk to me about moral doubt.
It's the questioning of God's moral standard, usually for pervasive reasons.
Okay, can you go deeper into that, or someone else want to add to that? Yes, Grace, sorry. Ben's call. Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is the garden, right? Did God really say? No. Now, then he said something that God didn't say. But that's kind of what's going around in your mind, right? Is this really not good, or is this really okay? Were you going to say something, Ben? No. I know a lot of young adults who rethink morality, and particularly in the area of sexuality once they leave home. And, did God really say that this is wrong? And the truth is, yes, he did. But if you're doubting, it's very easy to try to question that or to question that. Now, I'm not going to ask you that next question. That's for you to do. And again, when you show me what you've written, unless I'm the person you're asking to read it, I won't read it because I want you to be completely honest. But so the last question though, what is the most important thing you learned from this video? What's something that you maybe aren't just taking away for your assignment, but you're taking away for your life? Yes.
Run to God.
What?
Run to God.
Run to God. Isn't that a beautiful picture? Yeah, then. So important. Yeah.
Last year we talked a lot about intellectual doubt and how to combat people like that. But like you said, when it comes to emotional and psychological doubt and then moral doubt, and just being there and listening to them rather than combating them with just reason right away.
Right.
That's
Right.
really interesting.
100%. Yep. Did you have your hand up? Yeah.
To learn learn how to interact with, the Q&A, the dialogue with friends, trust building relationship.
It's built on relationship. Yeah. So when I maybe talked about this earlier in your time here at Cornerstone as your Bible teacher. Um, but I had the greatest crisis of faith of my life after my father died, and I was in a wrestling match with God for longer than I would care to tell. I don't know how long it was, but it wasn't weeks and it wasn't months. Um, and I didn't walk away from my community. That's so important, right? I continued going to my church and to groups within the church that I was a part of. I continued walking with Jesus, but I was still wrestling with God. And I don't think it was because, my father was 77 years old. He had Alzheimer's. He was ready to go home. Um, it was more like intellectual. And I remember thinking, what if none of it's true? What if I've given my life over to? And I remember a friend saying to me, a friend that I confided, said, "Well, Amy, if it's wrong, you'll never know." And oddly, that was kind of comforting to me. Um, But here's how I can't say this is the day, this is the time I came out of that wrestling match. But what I can say is that what was pivotal in my coming out of it was God stayed in the wrestling match. He never let me go. He never said, "I'm done with you. If you're going to doubt me, we're done." And he let me keep wrestling. And at some point, and I don't even know because it was maybe gradual, and I was like, I'm not wrestling. Because I knew that the truth, and I knew it all along, but I still had that doubt. I don't know if that's disquieting to you to have your Bible teacher say that she doubts, but guess what? All Christians doubt at some point. So it's part of who we are. And then the one last thing I want to say is community. Look, I would rather send my children to a secular school, like Claire's going to a secular school, that has good campus ministries and good churches in town, than I would send a child to my own alma mater, where at least when I was there were not really any good, at least evangelical. Well, there was one, um, but really nothing else on campus, and really no churches, no evangelical churches in the town, in the small town, and that made it really difficult for me to grow spiritually. So wherever it is you're going, whether that's to college or someplace else, you need Christian community, and you cannot expect to grow spiritually without that. One of the reasons that I have grown spiritually in the last 8 years, probably more than I've grown, I grew in the years before that, is because of this community. It's not just because I'm teaching Bible, it's because I am surrounded every day by colleagues who love the Lord and love me, and we're iron sharpening iron to one another. And you need to find a group like that, and friends like that at school, no matter where you're going. Questions? Thoughts? Okay, so tomorrow, Tim Weeby, and I changed it on facts. Hang on just a second.